Welcome to virtual and physical natural balance masterclass. Welcome soul physically. Welcome to you watching this. Everyone at the dinner table, welcome. You are in the presence of natural balance masterclass. And what is natural balance masterclass? What is natural balance? What is it when we go inside and we feel what's going on inside and then from that feeling inside, use words to articulate that feeling in such a way that it can be received by another person? To my last question, I would call that vulnerability. And natural balance is a movement of specifically people who have let go of their egoic expectations, their egoic perceptions, their egoic opinions, their egoic my truths. And there's something that's beneath expectation, perception, opinion, and my truth. And this thing that's beneath that is natural, and it's inherent, and it's divine, and it's always available, and it never leaves us, and it's always with us. But there's a distortion that happens, and this distortion is largely linked to programming. And this programming is happening 24/7, all the time, from the time it's happening even when we sleep. There's not a time that that our subconscious isn't being programmed. And I liken this programming to eating. And so, for example, I eat with my mouth, but I also hear things with my ears. When I'm receiving input, this is what I'm likening to eating. And so I eat with my mouth, I eat with my ears, I eat with my nose, I eat with my eyes, I eat with my skin. And this eating is receiving information from the immediate environment. And this receiving of information is going into the subconscious and then generating programs that we typically use to create a view of how we function and how others function in the world. And natural balance, our genuine expression, is accessible through recognizing that there's a foundation that all this programming is coming from and coming through, and that specifically this foundation is divinity, and this is our natural nature. And it's the programming exists inside of this divinity, or it comes from this divinity, but the program isn't our natural state. And it's not our natural state in the sense that there's something that is inherent, that is transcendent of the programming. And this inherent thing is what I'm calling our natural state. And then the programming is what is distortion to what is naturally available. And I can intellectualize this and I can talk about it in my brain, but there's real access to this natural divinity it's coming from a heart-based expression. And this heart-based expression is like we let go of the programming, and then as we let go of the programming, this heart-based way of operating, functioning, and way of being in the world is natural when we've like dissected what's going on with the input received that's in our subconscious. And it's in our subconscious until we become conscious of what's in our subconscious. And as we do that, now that when we become conscious of what's in our subconscious, we start to gain insight on our subconscious programmings, and thus we become conscious. To whatever degree we're conscious of what we're programmed with. And in addition to that, how what we're programmed with is affecting directly our way of being, is affecting directly our words, and is also directly affecting our actions. And so, welcome. I'm like totally blanking on your name right now. Can you tell me your name? Welcome, David. Welcome, Cole. Blessing that you're here. I'm very aware. It's a signpost. It's a way for when I say David, it's like, oh, like there's divinity calling my name, and so like I can respond because this signpost that's called David has been called upon, and signposts are important because they give us a degree of navigation in 3D dimensional functionality, which when we let go of our programming, we start to see that the 3D functionality is more, it's less functional than it originally appears, to the point where the 3D dimension starts to appear as inherently dysfunctional, and the thing that is functional is the thing that is the natural divinity that is coming through the third dimension, but isn't the entirety of the dimension itself. And so I'll pause there, and you've both been here, so you're conscious. This is a feminine flow environment. I invite interruptions. I'll pause there.
How do we imagine communication is possible without, in the process, programming each other to what it is that we have as our expectations, placed upon whatever subject or upon whatever situation? Or how would you distinguish the difference between this natural, like the kind of communication in this class where it's just the divinity and the true essence of who we are freely expressing, and I guess the other, the antithesis of that would be like manipulation, right? And trying to get others to see something or be something the way we want them or the way we need them to be. So I just wanted to open that up for conversation.
Like the question I'm hearing is like a question of how do we communicate and have it be such that it's divine communication, but not in programming.
Yeah.
So when I hear that question, what I'm present to is that our divine nature is the thing transcendent of the programming, and it's literally the truth. So it's like the truth isn't something that can be programmed. It's something that's functional, operational, and inherent with, even if we don't believe in it, even if we don't see it, it is operating And so the program, so when we're speaking and it's not of the truth and it's not of divine nature and it is from programming, there can't not be programming happening. But when it's from this divine place, when it's from the truth, the truth specifically reveals the programming already in place and dismantles it and reveals what the divinity that's been there the whole time. And so my point is that divinity is not a program, and a program is a program. So when a program speaks and a program listens, programming is happening. And when divinity speaks and divinity is listening, it's just pure divinity.
And so how would you distinguish the difference in the function of the two? Like, how would you qualify in listening to somebody or in speaking to somebody?
I'm listening.
Yeah, how would you distinguish or qualify that difference in function when speaking or listening? Like, how do you identify it?
That's a high quality question right there. Welcome, Ticon. Welcome, Suzanne.
Mel said truth knows truth.
So, to Ticon and Suzanne, in this space specifically, this is a feminine flow space. And so imagine you're in a master brain where we're all connected, and that's what this environment is. And so as you feel called to speak, you can literally pick up a mic and talk. I invite interruptions. To me, they're synchronicities. They're actually not interruptions. They're a divine orchestra. And so how to interact here is you can raise your hand and wait to be called on to speak, or you can literally just get a mic and speak. And so with that being said, I'm not gonna answer your question right now, David. I'm just gonna pause and see what's here.
So, okay. I'm loving this conversation because what I've discovered is that if I am firmly rooted in the pure I am, the truth of I am, then ego appears as an object within my consciousness, and I no longer identify with it. I can watch it and be aware of it, but it's not the driver. And therefore, when I'm speaking about anything, and when I'm speaking about that place, I'm 100% responsible for my own reality. And it doesn't even make sense to project my reality onto someone else, because in that open space, I'm observant and present to what's there without projecting anything on it. So anything that arises in my space is my responsibility. And it's enjoyable because there's no pressure, there's no desire, there's no need to engage in any kind of manipulation or attempt to, get anything from anybody. It's all just fluid and flowing, and amazing and somewhat miraculous. I've often thought that communication itself is such a miraculous thing, that we could actually convey one way of seeing one to another and maybe engage each other and invite each other to share a moment of unity or community, which is the experiment that we're having here. And what it means to not have any resistance to any of it, that everything that appears is perfect within that space.
So when you're being subjected to these objects, right, that are appearing, how do you relate to them in a way that is able to discern their relevance? In other words, if this object relates to you in a way that's personal, how do you take personal responsibility for it if you just treat all of them as something to observe and not really, interact with meaningfully?
Well, I have a choice to engage,
Yeah.
and that's my choice.
And personal responsibility is a program.
Ooh, I felt that.
Could you say that again?
Personal responsibility is a program.
It's a weird expression that really doesn't describe
It's just owning
what
your
it means
reality.
to just be present
That's
to
what I
what
mean
is
by it.
real in the moment.
If you mean owning your reality,
Yeah.
how do you distinguish between that and taking responsibility?
Yeah. So my distinction for personal responsibility is taking complete responsibility for anything and everything that enters your space, your unconscious awareness, your conscious, whatever it is. So I guess that's the reason for my question, as far as like, how do you discern what's entering into your space or whatever is being objectified? How do you know that there isn't some way that this object is actually entering your space and entering your reality in order to up-level your subject?
Every situation is there for that.
Yeah.
Every single one.
Yeah.
So you do know.
Okay.
Because it's all just a reflection. So if there's any objectiveness, the objectiveness is part of what's being stuck inside. And you can't really escape the program, and you can in a way, but the program exists for us to have experience. So in what you're trying to do is you're trying to figure out from a space of knowing what you're supposed to be in order to be okay, to be in an alignment.
That would be an assumption as far as what I'm doing. But no, like I'm asking these questions in order to, my intention is to forward the conversation and just
Well, how do you
yeah.
discern, David?
So great question. So back to the original question, it would be the difference in communicating as our true authentic selves and trying to manipulate or, get what we want is, in essence, are we impressing upon ourselves the expression of others, or is it being imprinted? So that's the distinction I make in terms of function, impression versus imprinting. So imprinting is that subconscious programming where you're trying to basically drill something in and make somebody be a certain way or, do something that you're wanting and needing, and in that way forcefully kind of breaking past any of their own subjectivity. So you completely disregard another human being as a subject and you treat them as an object. And in that way, you make that object in their reality more real than their own divine essence and who they truly are.
So why do you do that?
Why do I do that? Well, anyone.
Sounds like the tyranny.
Yeah, the tyranny. That's one way to refer to it. But yeah, any kind of oppression or subjugation or, other individual sovereignty is trying to have things be a certain way and basically controlling. Anyway, I mean, that's how I distinguish it.
And so why do you do it?
I do it, and why anybody does it is the same reason. It's because they don't feel or believe that they are creators of their reality, that we're all creators. They're stuck in some way in victim or hero or villain mentality where something other than what is needs to happen in order for you to feel okay, in order for you to be okay. So,
well, this is the option that we have to expand into a unified reality or collapse into a very it's like a very subjective and separative reality, an us versus them sort of reality. And that is all available. I mean, the thing is that, in the eyes of God, all exists simultaneously, and you have all the choices that you could ever want. Any kind of thing you want to play with is there, right? So what are you choosing? Where does your awareness flow? How does your nature move you? Your natural expression? How does that play with the energy around you and
yes,
the appearances around you?
What that brings up in me is a conversation about will. Like, there's the will to meaning, for example, as Viktor Frankl would distinguish, or there's like a will to power or a will to pleasure. And all of these are actually unconscious. And what you're speaking to, I believe, is how do you make a conscious and volitional choice inside of all of these possibilities to orient yourself in a way that brings you towards the meaning that's already there, the God-given meaning of why we're here and what we're meant to do is, bring heaven on earth. And so if you're able to distinguish within yourself everything that is not of God, that is not of Jesus, that is not of the essence of your and our true self, then you make a decision to cut that off. And so that I've literally only now come to that realization that it's actually possible, even no matter how twisted or disoriented or whatever judgments you can have, like fucked up or somebody is evil, that there is a way, no matter where you're at, to change that orientation, to change which direction you're heading by making the decision and cutting off all options until the only option that you have is God, and surrendering to God and finding yourself as part of something greater. So it's not something we can, and that's where the sovereignty comes in, because that's where I made the mistake of, rather than just being a lighthouse and standing where I am and letting, in this case, there was a girl, who Evelika was her name, just allowing her to choose to go to hell. Like, I followed her essentially and kept trying to point her the other way by stepping in and then re-stepping in and re-stepping into whatever reality that she was stuck in, and in effect trying to save her in that way. And it's because I didn't have God as a reference point that I can confidently speak to and just point her that way, and then lead by example, and just, regardless of what she does, follow that path. So,
well, I kind of came to that in a different way, because instead of me being the chooser and seeking God, God did a jailbreak in my brain, basically. And And so he's been the ruler of my life for 50 years. Not even as a he, but as the sole occupant of my house. And the rest of me is a guest. And yes, I have an ego, and yes, I have feelings, and yes, this experience has an entity and a background and a story and all of that. But it is not primary.
Yeah, so what is the primary driver, I think, is the question for anyone to ask themselves. If it's anything but God.
You're the observer of the driver.
Yeah, so become a conscious observer of what's driving, and then
Sounds like a lot of doing.
What does?
Do.
What does?
You're a meaning-making machine.
We all are.
We all are. Yes, that's very true. I guess as I'm perceiving it now, like there are no mistakes, right? Everything is perfect. Your journey to hell, following this girl, that was perfect. That's exactly what God intended, right?
Yeah, it took me a while to accept.
Did you have fun?
Did you have
fun?
No.
Part of you did. Otherwise, you wouldn't have chose to do it.
No, definitely not. Every part of it was excruciating and painful.
Well,
literally every dimension, every aspect of what that was. Like, it was actually shocking the degree to which there was, everything was. It was all painful.
It was all painful.
Yeah. I was committed, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, I made the covenant. And I thought, she was God sent, and she was, but not in the way that I perhaps imagined. So I took it upon myself to make the meaning of why she has entered my life. And I assumed that it was to guide her out or bring her out of, the non-reality that she was stuck in, but that was never my role. That was never my job. I was meant to just. I got down. I fell on my knees, and I literally was like, before I reconnected with her, before she re-entered my life, like, I can't do this alone. Like, it's not meant for me to do this alone. Like, the mission that I felt, like the calling that I had, and so. I thought, rather than continuing on forward with her being sovereign and choosing whether she wants to come along, like, she first chose to, and then, fear started setting in, and so she would try to run away, essentially. And and I followed her, essentially, and thought I'd do like a little detour, but that detour ended up being a permanent deviation from what the plan, God's plan was, because I took it upon myself.
Each one of us is an epic saga of the celebration of God's victory.
Yeah, all of these are excellent ways of seeing ourselves and our journey and each other, because in that way, no matter what we intend, it's always win-win. It's always win-win-win. No matter what happens, no matter what choices people make, if it's all perfect, as you were saying, and you recognize that, and you have the humility to be okay with not knowing why these tragedies or whatever it is that you perceive as wrong happening, if you have the humility to know that it's all perfect, then, well, basically it helps you stay on the path that you're being given and honoring that.
Where did we start?
This is
Communication.
here now.
We started in the here and the now. Ooh.
That's the beauty of this masterclass, and specifically the portion that we're in, is that it's a continuous flow, and it is a, how I perceive it and what I call it, a master mind, a master brain, and a collective conversation. We can see where we started, or we can create where we're going also.
Can we go to the heart? Oh.
Doesn't look like it or sound like it.
Ooh.
I'm definitely in my heart.
Okay.
Dun 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 dun.
You want to test it out? You want to feel it?
I don't know. How do I do I start poking you? Seeing.
This is amazing. How does one test if they're in their heart or not? If I were to want to, it's not even a test, but it's like, if I want to acknowledge that I'm actually coming from my heart, how do I do that?
My awareness is on my heart, and I can feel the sensation. There's an energy, there's a frequency, there's a tonality that comes out. Like, I'm connected with you. There is no separation. That's what it feels like for me.
A heart doesn't need to speak. It doesn't need to say anything. Only the mind needs to say shit. I think there's a balance in there, though, because what I was hearing a lot and what I was getting was this idea of, or this construct of, like, what's the recipe that I have to follow, or who do I have to be, or what do I have to do to be in God's grace or the light or the right path, or not to suffer. And that's this, like, developing strategy of, like, what's on my do list, what's on my don't list, how can I like put all the information together. And even in, like, speaking about like let's go to the heart, like, it's a great place to be. It's awesome. And the journey, the experience, the life, the diversity, the beauty and diversity is this just dance. It's like, if I just try to stay in my heart all the time, it's not necessarily authentic. Now that's my goal. Be in my heart, be zenny, be this. And it's then it feels clunky anyway. And then if I try to be like, okay, well, my mind's structuring, it just circles back for me back to the authenticity. And in that, authenticity means that you're already, like, authentic. That, I mean, I'm sure there's no Buddha. Jesus is here right now in the circle. So all of us are gonna have Jesus or Buddhas.
Oh.
In the circle right now. So in the authentic expression, we're always gonna see the program. And if we try to hide the program, then we're already restricting the authentic expression, because we're saying, I need to be something else. I need to be this, therefore I can't show what's there, because then it'll mean something, and that resistance itself is what the problem is. Because the second it's resisted, it's held in the energetic field, and it doesn't pass. It doesn't flow down the river, and then it gets stuck, it gets hidden, it blocks, and then that causes the separation. And
Sounds like becoming your own pothole. You become the tripwire that you're attempting to avoid. Now you're you're really stuck.
If you're getting inside of like that mindset of like figuring it out, for sure, there's no exit. And in the moment that you be yourself, it's like, all right, I'm about to act from a program. And you can even try to be like, okay, I'm going to filter it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to reserve. I'm going to hold back. But all of that is like restraining what's actually flowing through the space.
That's just another layer of the program.
The restraining.
Yes.
Yeah. And I would surmise that letting the program out isn't part of the program. It's part of the truth. It's part of the oneness, because it's the path to returning to together.
I'm with you, and I believe this.
Definitely.
If
It's
that's
part of what we're
that's the
doing.
intention, though.
Yes.
Because some people letting it out are just repeating and regurgitating and further going inside of a program if they don't have that intention with what you're speaking to.
The authenticity is the vulnerability in owning it. Back to what he was saying, it's the difference in being like, this is how I feel and it's on me, to I'm gonna be looking on the outside. So it's not necessarily it's the intention of where we started, owning your experience. And the second you own it and you're authentic, then it has no ripple effects. The second this is, I feel this way, and
It's your fault.
it's you. It's all you. Then we're off. So the only awareness needed in all of that is the base awareness that I'm going to be authentic, I'm going to be real, I'm going to blow up, and I'm going to hold that in my space. It might like ripple out, but it's not being pointed at somebody.
Yeah, that's not unification. That's another expression of separation, where you imagine yourself as disconnected or not in flow. It's like thinking about the thinking about the thinking.
Yeah, I would say earlier at the table that was a good example of like, I knew there was the right way, quote unquote, to potentially say things so that it lands better. But that's like making assumptions and judgments about others and
That's
where they
manipulating.
are, and exactly. So I simply, whether I was in the heart space or not in the heart space, it was something that was present, and to not disclose it and put it out there in some way or another, regardless of how it's received, would have been inauthentic. And so the authentic thing for me to have done was to just express it however it came in the moment, and then whatever the ripple effect or the repercussions would be taken as they are, and then just continue on forward, because it was something that was in me that didn't come out of nowhere. It was present to, whatever this, part of this dynamic we all have a part in. That landed in my space, and it needed to be at least opened up and spoken to. And so my intention was to just open that up in whatever way, as opposed to close down and separate myself because of whatever judgments that I may have. Or
So did you do it right or wrong?
I did perfectly. What do you mean? Like, what was it?
Authentically, what's the answer?
Oh, like, how do I feel about it? That actually is how I feel. I don't feel like, I could have said it or done it better, or if this and if that, or it's like, yeah, I nailed it and I said exactly right, exactly what I wanted to say. It's like, no, it was like I said it as I said it, and that was perfect, and I could in some ways see how it was perfect, like with whatever foresight I have and hindsight, but I'm not making that the permanent meaning I'm assigning to it. I'm just like, okay, that was perfect, and I guess we'll see how it was perfect in due time.
Whoa. Did you say you're reserving judgment for later to change your mind about the perfection?
No.
I got a question. Like, I think I'm aware of the reference you're speaking to, but is the reference when Dennis asked a question and then you?
No. In the morning in the meeting.
So yeah, I'm on a different reference.
Oh, okay.
So
Wait,
I'm
were you
glad
there?
that you're clarifying this. For what
The
you're
end
describing,
of the
no.
meeting.
No.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Did you think that it was perfect in that moment? It might be now, but did you think that in the moment that it happened?
Well, I experienced some feelings of discomfort, and like I wasn't thrilled, actively thrilled about how it was being reflected back or whatever, or thrown back or whatever it is. But I was quick to accept, like as things come, like I accept and this is what is. And then based on what is, do I say more? Do I not? So that's how I learned actually in this time at Earthwaking to communicate is just say exactly, whatever it is, however it is, and based on, and just real time accept the reality that's being reflected back or presented back or thrown back, whatever it is. And then I look at in myself, whatever it is that it may have brought up in me, work through that. I see what's left. It's like, okay, this is what's left.
So what did you feel when it was thrown back at you?
I felt there were spikes of certainly anger, like if I were to like dig in deep, and resentment, or like, it's like being mocked. I don't know, how would you feel if you're being mocked or you're not being taken seriously, right? So my intention was to forward a conversation or to bring a conversation and to just say where I'm standing with this
but
present thing.
Go back to that feeling, like when you're feeling like they're not listening to you,
or
that they're angry, or they're coming with spikes at you. What is that feeling when they're doing that? When you're being mocked, how does that make you feel?
I know how it's supposed to make me feel if I were egoically identified with it, but it didn't. Like I was present enough to what was going on that I didn't take it personally in a way that, like, I could. There is stuff inside of me, whatever pain and trauma and stuff that needs to heal, that I could connect it to, but it presently wouldn't serve me to do that.
Stories come after feelings. So yeah, we can see you didn't let it turn into a story, but that doesn't mean you didn't feel something.
Oh yeah, I definitely did.
And feelings aren't very easily described with words.
Yeah.
So
that's why anger. That's why I say like anger would be the closest, like a fuck you energy. So.
So why didn't you tell us fuck off?
Because I know it's whatever part is pinging me is my shit, A, and B, there's a larger thing at play. There's a greater intention behind what I'm expressing, and I'm focusing on that rather than on my personal inadequacies or insufficiencies.
I'm going to just, because I love you, and I'm going to tell the truth right now, but you're lying to yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, you're qualifying what is a value and what isn't a value by your assessment of attempting to present yourself a certain way. So you're, instead of being
wasn't doing that.
100% authentic, which would include that very last part of the anger and the resentment and the things that were arising as you were receiving, you chose to keep that hidden. But taking that risk might have opened a door that allowed for the possibility of what
I
you were
see
even
that.
hoping for.
Ticon actually approached me right after and spoke to this, and I received it. But I also what I shared with Ticon was that in the past, being vulnerable in that particular way, creating that opening, all it does is it reinforce the dicks that get shoved into that space the second I open myself up to it.
And
Only if you're still protecting your egoic identity.
Yeah, but this is perfect. It's what I am speaking to is the collective ego here. And so my
you are
intention,
still in control. You are still the
It's-
one that is like, because that's not owning it. That's not owning your your reality. That's not owning what your experience is. You're still putting it
I'm not
outside
owning
of yourself.
it. To own it inside of that space would be to actually perpetuate.
You're using that as an excuse not to
No,
be
I'm not using it
vulnerable or
as
to
an
go
excuse.
deep.
I'm not using it as an excuse. I'm just discerning the fact that taking ownership of this aspect of myself in that space, given where that space is at or what is shared inside of that space, is perpetuating a aspect of all of us that is disowned, that gets disowned in that space. So there's a level of responsibility and ownership that
You
isn't
have
being
to
taken.
own that part. You haven't owned it yet.
I understand, and that is so. The
Because
more I own
that is
it,
accepted here. And there's, to a degree, yes, there is that. I hear you.
yeah, we're not all
Though
white.
you
in the
still
white
are
here.
the one that can transcend that. You
Yeah.
are in complete control.
And that's what I've been
of that
doing. So the
aspect.
more I move in that direction, and the more I own, and I can actually be in the light of whatever shadow, quote unquote, or ego that is in that place. So there in the face of adversity, there's equal or greater opportunity, and so in taking personal responsibility in that way, it's strengthening me and honing me into what my purpose actually is here. And it's only me that could stand and take and own that. So I'm not, that's not what I'm speaking to, but relative to where I'm at now, this is what I got. Like this is what I'm able and have access to bring to the circle, and how I'm able to bring it to the circle. And so I'm not going to try to be more or further along than I actually am just to speak to what there is to speak to.
Yeah, that's not what we're talking about, though.
No, it's
David, I personally am terrified to tell people how I feel. It's a super uncomfortable place to be. Bare your heart in front of people who might come and stab and shit on it and hurt the fuck out of it. It's not easy. Not, at least for me.
You calling me a coward?
Is that what you heard?
Well, if I were to translate it, it's not what I think your intention is in the communication.
Well, did you hear what I said, which is
Yeah.
I am terrified.
But you have the courage to still be vulnerable.
Said who?
Okay, maybe that's me
Yeah.
adding on. Okay.
I'm speaking to your heart, and from a vulnerable place. It gets terrifying, man. It's super hard. Especially when your heart's been hurt over and over again. And especially if your heart is really big and sensitive. And the more you are actually attuned to God, the more sensitive your heart gets. You've seen that image of Christ with the heart and it's bearing the thorns? It's because as you open to that consciousness, things in this world hurt immensely just to experience. And then you add to that like other people who can't see themselves and are gonna like point their shit at you, and you bear that to them, it hurts, like for sure.
So I came into Earthwaking stuck in this negative feedback loop where I still was trying to be that way, even though, like,
That way,
that
meaning
way
to
being
bear
bearing my heart and soul and exposing it fully and taking on whatever comes at me, like even if it's painful, and just having the courage of my convictions or whatever to be vulnerable in that way. Like if you're just bold-faced, right, and you boldly assert whatever the hell you think, that's not courageous. That's not, that's not bearing your convictions and putting them to like on the altar and putting them to the test by being the thing that you're saying is the truth. That whatever thing you're arguing for or standing for, in being vulnerable and courageous, like that's how you know, because you can't offend and you can't hurt anything that is actually the truth. Only the lies get burned off. That being said, where I ended up, the hell, and having taken in all of the lies and all of the sins and all of the suffering by just stubbornly remaining open, like keeping my heart open, and just like, I'm not meant right now to be that. And I had a lot of trouble accepting my role and my function right now here as part of this collective, what God has me here for, why it was perfect, quote unquote, what I went through, right, with this girl and this journey that I've been on. And so in surrendering to God, I also surrendered my own way, which is not only the ego, but also the principles, like the integral principles on which I stood and lived by. I am not able to live by them, and trying to live by them actually just creates this vicious cycle of constantly returning to hell. And the grace that I've been given by the community here and learning what grace really is, and by John just standing where he is, I've been able to accept where I'm at and accept and honor, and honor my journey and allow myself to be used however it looks like on the outside. So
all right, let's pause here.
yeah.
So that was specifically was because now in the illusion of time, feel the individual again, feel this moment, feel that you have a body, feel that the conversation that was the feminine flow portion of this masterclass, but we're now in a new time with a new opportunity, and this opportunity now is to give an offer. This is an offer that is and includes a minimum donation amount. It includes the name of the event or the service. It includes a location or a product. And it includes a way for somebody to reach out to you to receive this offer that you're giving. So I invite you to feel into your heart, feel into an offer that you have inside of you. And this offer might have ego in it. This offer might be pure divine expression. But what's important here is what? Practice. Give it a go. Just open up and give an offer and let it rip. And in the letting it rip, putting something out there that before you communicated wasn't even possible or wasn't even available. So we're going to have 2 minutes each. And who would like to start? Amazing. So Ticon, you have 2 minutes. Let it rip.
How's it going there? My name is Ticon for anyone watching and everyone here in the village. I'm super stoked to share with you Dragon Dreaming. Dragon Dreaming is a coaching and upgraded service in which we will sit with you, visionaries and idea and dream holders. We'll listen, we'll hear where maybe you're stuck, stuck in your head, or stuck in your pain and stuck in your stories. And we'll use the tools that we've been learning to liberate some space and some freedom so you can crystallize your vision and bring it into reality. It includes taking it from the 5D, the energetic space, and bringing it all the way down into a plan. And then if you so feel called, we can take your plan and we can work through each part of the plan to ensure that you don't fall into old habits or patterns or limiting beliefs, and you're able to activate each and every part of the plan, from the dream to the plan to the action plan. And for a lot of people that I work with, sometimes this involves retreats. So I have an upcoming retreat, Sing, Dream, Dance, Reality into Being, here in February. And Michael was a wonderful participant in this program, and we are taking him from his vision all the way to enacting and embodying the retreat itself. So on that journey, he's marketed, he's planned, he's communicated, he's came into the space, and now in the space, he has to be in the space of transmuting his mission. And that whole journey from vision to embodiment is a big journey. So if you're looking for an ally, you can find me at dragon.nomadiccommunities.com. 4 sessions are going for $444. And if you want to bring me on a little bit afterwards to coach you through the rest of the process, to see you take that dream, that vision, and birth it into reality, then you can hit me up. Much love.
Yes. Yeah, and if you're watching this replay, all of these offers are in the description of this video. Who would like to share an offer next?
I am in the process of offering to everyone who is listening access to the unlimited power of God, flowing, streaming through me continuously with great love and great joy, and it's freely given. And if you want to receive it, just say yes. That's all. Thank you very much. You can find me at the Mighty Networks Earth Waking. In any way, just look up Suzanne. You'll find me.
Yes. Feel Sarah Jean getting in the zone.
Yeah.
Just be where you are, and then whenever you're called, let it rip. You have 2 minutes, and I'll pause there.
I'm just deeply connected to the experience of when I didn't live my life all in. I was only doing things that were from choosing my safety, choosing comfort, choosing anything that would keep me in survival, to keep me safe. And that way of living is such a cage. You see, I did have a purpose in my life. It was to be safe, to not get hurt, to do things right. Don't get it wrong, because if you get it wrong, you're definitely in some trouble. And that was my purpose. And then I found a bunch of crazy people that had a different purpose. Because I started asking questions like, who am I? What is this all about? What do I really want with my life? And what I really want to live is a life that is just all in, where I'm putting my whole heart, my whole mind, all of my soul into everything that I'm doing to establish God's kingdom here on earth, to live from that purpose. And so I invite you to the On Purpose podcast. These are deep dive conversations just about living a life of purpose, to flourish and be fulfilled in every single area of your life, because that is my true wish for everyone in humanity to find, is that freedom and that ability to live all in. So that link will be in the chat for you. I love you. Thanks.
So, David, I feel you being in the zone here. You got an offer that you want to present this week? All right. So I'm gonna go. Yeah, you've already met me, but hey, my name is Neal. My offer is an offer that is coming from a place of like feeling like I got somewhere and then being like not knowing what's next. And so who this is for is specifically for like healers and event facilitators and leaders, where you've been growing and you've been expanding and you've got to a point of consciousness, but it's like now there's like this plateau that you're at. And you're aware that there's more, but you're not entirely sure how to access it or what the next step is. And what I'm offering is the up-level ceremony. And this is a 7-day event where in the first 5 days of this event, we're food fasting in silence. And I have a maximum number of people that can be at this event, and that number is right now like 27 people. So the minimum donation amount to attend is $333, and that secures your spot. That's like, boom, you're in. And now, every $50 you donate more than those $333 is one single tree being planted in your name. And so the up-level ceremony, the dates of this are start date December 27th, 2024. End date is January 2nd, 2025. And on January 1st, 2025, we're coming out of this letting shit go state, coming out of this introspection. We have a clean vessel in January 1st, 2025. And from that clean vessel space, we're then refueling, reintroducing new content, new information in the form of organic Okinawa spinach, organic papayas, organic watermelons, organic mangoes, and really embracing and vitalizing us and our energy and being radiant going into the year 2025. So you're invited. I'm going to put all the information in the description. And that's my offer. And I want to thank you, David, for showing up and for being you and for intellectualizing and occasionally going into your heart. Thank you for being in your heart. And like there's an energy that I feel with you, Ticon, where like you have this way where you don't like, you spoke to how it hurts or you're scared to express what you're feeling, but I see you doing it anyways. And thank you for showing up and bringing your whole heart. Thank you, Sarah Jean, for being here, for being you. I don't always like you, but I do always love you. Thank you, Suzanne, for being here. And with that, this concludes Natural Balance Masterclass. Peace.